Welcome back to Nocturne News. I'm Nick.
And I'm Cass.
And this is episode 6. We've been gone for a bit, but we've been seeing a ton of live shows. So I want to remind you to like and subscribe because our next episode is our full recap and review of Cold Waves Festival. It's huge every year, so you're not going to want to miss that one.
And our first band coming up is She Passed Away with their song and album, Disko, Anksiyete. Heard a little bit of Disko Anksiyete. That is off of their third album. This is She Passed Away. They're from Athens, Greece. Recently, we got to see them in one of the only, was like 1 out of 4 shows in the United States that they played. They missed their flight, or it was canceled, and they drove 18 hours from New York overnight, getting there at midnight where we were, and that's such dedication. Yeah,
it's pretty amazing to have that much really respect for your fans, because there was only 4 shows in the US, and there's people that came to Chicago from pretty much the entire region that wanted to be able to see these guys live, and they didn't disappoint. The show was awesome, even though they just got off of like a how many 12-hour drive or whatever. It's like, it's crazy to think about it. But yeah, it was a pretty great show.
Pretty great show. I mean, this album that they have right now is very 80s groovy. I like this song in particular because it does have that kind of like smoother synth style that we hear in a lot of like newer like modern dark wave and post-punk. It's interesting because it does have a lot of Turkish poetry that they add into it as well. Unfortunately, I haven't really listened to their first 2 albums, which I'm pretty sure a whole bunch of people are going to be really pissed off at me about, but I have
the very first one here as well. But yeah, this is the new one, and I really like this album a lot. What I like about them is that they have that dark, kind of gloomy, real goth element, but they still have a strong synth and upbeat dance element to it as well, which I really like. And I kind of feel a feeling that his vocals remind me a little bit of like Peter Steele, kind of from Typo. And it's like, I don't know, the music that you would kind of want to clean and organize your Switchblade collection by candlelight.
Make sure that you lick each one as you place it down.
That sort of thing, you know, just very moody, but excellent stuff.
Right now they are on tour. They start in Europe. It is going to be in Lindau, Germany on October 18th at Club Vaudeville. There's a couple of dates after that, so if you are over in Europe or in the UK, definitely check them out. They're not to be missed. I hope you enjoyed listening to them, because next up we have a little bit of taste of Chicago.
That was Wingtips with their track The Eye That Follows Suit off their brand new album Exposure Therapy. Wingtips is from Chicago. This duo is amazing live, and this album in particular I think is really an evolution of their sound. You can really tell that they've kind of become more direct collaborators in their work. With more of kind of a upbeat drum element and percussion worked into what they're doing now in their sound. I think they've finally, you know, evolved a little bit in their direction as well. And
well, I mean, once you get another person directly collaborating, especially with like how the songs are going to sound, and maybe even lyrics, though I'm not quite sure on there, and I'll have to ask. It is a duo, Vincent and Hannah. Vincent, I believe, started it with Hannah kind of working with him as a live member. And then after that, in this album, you start to see a little bit more of her input, a little bit of more of kind of like the jungle style hard beats, which I feel like might be directly contributed to her. She does have a solo project as well, which is very harsh and very noisy. So I kind of feel like she brought some of that over, because like he seems to be and I don't know this personally at all, but it feels like he's coming in with like the very soft, like Cure style essence,
more melodic,
and like melodic, especially with his voice, and she's getting like the energy and the beats. Personally, it reminded me when I was listening to this of like Lost Boys, and it may be because I was on this like Gothic cruise and Vincent DJ'd, and the whole theme was Lost Boys, but it was almost like that, you know, being on the pier and there's like the drumming of the carnival sounds, and like, it's like really gothic and dark outside.
It definitely has this kind of nostalgic kind of feel built into the texture of a lot of the sounds that they're using, and it does have that, like, it's the end of summer, you're at a carnival or something like that, and you know it's the sun.
Hearing the Jumanji beats.
The sun just set, right? It's it's definitely has that kind of retro feel to it, but it also has like a very modern sensibility, I think, as well. And I think that's where it really shines is in some of those tracks where you can tell that they're both
collaborating on it. Oh yeah, no, and that's definitely what I like about Eintracht. It's the first track off this album, and watching her play it, she was really into the drumming and just putting like a whole bunch of energy into something as simple as electric drums. And I find that very interesting, of kind of like keeping that momentum and keeping that entertainment and beat going the entire time. I always love, and I think I've said this before, the difference between hearing a track and seeing it live. And of course, we'll talk more and show more about them and seeing them live and seeing them play that particular song. Yeah,
they have a huge tour right now. Yeah,
they do. Right now, they've been adding even more dates to it. They may be adding even more, but right now it's still going. I think October 2nd, they were in like the East Coast, but they're just kind of ranging all over. So definitely check out their Facebook to get an update on where they're going to be, because it seems like they're kind of like looping back around the United States. So if you think you've missed them, you may have not. They may still be coming into your area or around your area.
And the album is on Artifact Records, which is a great label. They have a lot of great newer bands that they've been signing. Actress is on their label as well. And I think Wingtips is going to excel because of this tour. And I think the album is fantastic. And being on Artifact, I think it's going to be great for them as well. But on to our next review.
That was Facedown by Low Factor off of their 2018 album L'Oiseau du Désespoir. They're from Montreal, Quebec, and they unfortunately haven't put out anything in a good bit, nothing this year at least. But what really drew us to them was this one music video that they did called Icicle. You were at a show?
Yeah, I was at the Drab Majesty show at Talia Hall here, and between sets, I was talking to a couple folks, and they suggested checking out Low Factor and showed me this music video for Icicle on their phone. I was immediately blown away by just the aesthetics of the video alone and super intrigued about the band, and ended up going and checking out their album. And their newest album, it's got a little bit more of an industrial feel to it, but if you check out the music video, you're going to love it. It's got kind of a, I want to say, Cabinet of Dr. Caligari kind of like German expressionist film style to it.
It's really funny because I think they're a shark at one point, or like there is a shark at one point, but it also has like all these hand-drawn waves, and then they come out onto the music video stage and just like, you can't look away. I was just laughing because it was so good, and because I was so amused by the fact that the music video felt so small and like so homemade, but was so well done. Though they, I think, were with another individual that the 2018 album, I don't believe that they're with. So this one is a little bit more morose.
Yeah, it definitely has a darker aesthetic to it. It almost reminds me of like some early Skinny Puppy with its kind of minimal electronic and sampling and sequencing and some of the sounds that they're using, and just even the way that they are kind of manipulating some of the drony vocals and stuff. It kind of has that type of throwback feel to it, but it's very fresh. And if you like, you know, that type of minimal electronic, industrial, and dark wave music, you're going to really want to check them out because the album is super cool. Like I said, it's a 2018 release, but they were not on my radar at all until these wonderful folks who I ran into suggested them.
That is, again, a reminder to let us know of any albums or songs or bands or shows that you think that we need to check out. We definitely will do so. We may not play it on the show, but if it really like clicks our button, we'll definitely put it out there at the very least. And especially if there's any really big tours going on, let us know. We're definitely trying to, with this show, get a lot of like smaller bands in the industrial, in the post-punk and dark wave reburgeoning scene, just kind of pushed out there onto the web and into the minds and hearts of all the individuals.
Yeah, we want to make sure that you get to find out about bands you may never have heard of, like this awesome band Low Factor, which if you already knew about them, you're awesome, because this band is great.
Oh yeah, no, that was one of the funniest music videos I had seen in a while, just based on aesthetics alone. But of course, now we have our fourth band.
That was Xeno and Oaklander live performing here in Chicago at Talia Hall in the round. And they were in support of Drab Majesty, touring with them. It was an amazing show.
I'm really pissed off I missed it.
Yeah, it was super cool to see Xeno and Oaklander there in the round. What they do is, Talia is a very big venue, but they sometimes will take bands and put them in the center of the floor on a platform. So then the
audience can just kind of circle around them. And it's such a lovely way to see a band, because there is absolutely no bad place to stand.
Yeah, there's not a bad spot in there. It's super intimate.
I mean, it used to be an opera house, so the acoustics are amazing.
Yeah, they still use the same sound system as like a normal show on the stage, so it sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
But you can see everything they're doing, and especially with a band like Xeno, who they use all analog synthesizers and analog instruments, and when they perform live, it's pretty cool and interesting to see what they're doing. It's a boy-girl duo with a vocalist, female vocalist who's French, and they're based out of Brooklyn. But they've basically started out doing like movie scores and film scores.
So they're film compositionists. Yeah,
she's a filmmaker, I believe. And then they were doing those scores, and that kind of evolved. The project evolved. They originally were on Ghostly International label. Now they have an album on Dias, which is their new album Hypnos, which is out now. That's what they were touring in support of. Want to suggest checking out the song "The Light, the Whisper" as well off of that album. But the whole album is really great. I think their new album on Dias definitely has more of a, I don't want to say like traditional industrial sound or anything like that. They're much more like, especially with the analog synths,
are they kind of like moving away from like the film composition of a scene and more towards like a story?
I mean, their stuff still has a lot of texture, and it still has that very full kind of cinematic element to it, but it definitely has more traditional song structures than some of the earlier stuff.
So like John Carpenter, but like not horror sense.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm Southern. Horror sense. Hopefully that came out correctly. But more of just like kind of like a...
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely, you know, adjacent to and attached to like the fine art experimental sound scene. And so they'll perform in art galleries, they'll perform at music venues and that sort of thing. So they're very much like a visual band as well with their performances. But yeah, if you're a fan of this great synthesized driven, and they're very danceable as well, but they have what I think a lot of more club-based industrial music, even a band like Boy Harsher that I really love is another duo, lacks, is that texture with the analog synth spring. And
you talk about like layers,
just the layers, yeah, the layers and the different types of atmospheric elements that they kind of build up, and they add this big texture to a lot of what they're doing, and just the sound that the analog synths has more texture.
Oh yeah, oh definitely does. I mean, like think of when you're watching some bands and they have just like a laptop, or they only have synths, but they're trying to they have like that beat and they're really trying to get that really like heavy industrial beat, and they can't because they don't have a live drummer, or they don't have that intense bassness to it. And that's why I say sometimes like live instruments may be better, just because you can get like more of a round type of sound, because it's the sound reacting in the environment that you're in.
Sure, and I think it's also just more engaging for the audience, especially with something like this where you can see him manipulating the analog synthesizer and you know, doing what he needs to do to get those sounds live.
So really especially if you're a synth head, you'd really
exactly like yeah. And instead, if you like spacey stuff and synthesized driven, you know, scores and things like that, leaning to more of the experimental side, you're definitely going to want to check out Xeno and Oaklander if you haven't checked them out yet. That's right, I got their newest album here, which is cool. Hypnos, and you can see some of their older stuff as well. You can check out those on their Bandcamp, but yeah, this is the newest one off of Deus. I really love it. You should check it out. And I believe they might still be touring with Drab Majesty and have a few more dates. So
cool.
You know, check your local listings and make sure you catch Xeno and Oaklander when they come to see you.
And now our last and final band.
That was Dark by Secret Shame from their album Dark Synthetics.
From Asheville, North Carolina, showing you that Southern Gothic is still alive and well. This album is very... for some reason, I wanted to say the adjective swooshy wooshy, which is
I don't know what that means. I would say that this album rocks.
It rocks, but
in a swooshy wooshy way, pumpkin patch type of way.
Yes, with long bell sleeves where you're swooshing around. But I mean, it's also Lena, who is the vocalist of the band, has been very open with the fact that this album is all about despair and, you know, mental illness and abuse and just like in politics and all of just like the rawness and intenseness of just how she's feeling, which usually when I feel like someone is just like rawness, you consider it like a punk form where someone might be screaming because you think that emotions always have to be raw. But she just challenges that idea by using this ridiculously playful voice to just goth melody her way around the band.
There's a lot of cool changes in the tracks, and the guitar work is very cool, and it's got high energy, and her vocals just are the driving force of the tracks.
It's almost not like surf. It's almost surfy in the guitar when you think of it, because it has a lot of the like pitch changes where it's like da da da, going up and down, which reminds me a lot of like surf rock and how, like, you know, the Beatles had theirs back in the day as well. But the whole album from start to finish, another song that I definitely recommend is Creatures off of that. It's like Halloween centric. You know, if you need something to Cry or Big Pumpkin or...
I was thinking this would be a great album to fight zombies to, but that's just me. Yeah.
Oh, what is that Cemetery? The movie Cemetery, you know, I could see that kind of...
Cemetery Man?
Yeah, Cemetery Man, like playing in the background where like, yes, where, you know, it's coming up and he's like, oh no, I've got to fight zombies again. And then like her voice comes like squeaking in on the background.
Definitely.
I'm just coming up with like new verbs all the time, squeaking. But I mean, they, as a band, are very well in tune with each other. And you can tell that with the type of playfulness that they have in each of these songs of this album. It'd be interesting to hear them live, to hear what their intenseness is and how much maybe that might push forward rather than kind of like mastered and remixed in a studio, like if like, you know, the guitar is more heavy or if her vocals are more
their live
intense.
shows are awesome. We'll have to try to check them out. I don't think they're touring, but maybe we can try to get down to Asheville.
They're playing a couple of shows on the East Coast. They had an East Coast tour that they just finished. Unfortunately, they're not coming out to the Midwest yet. Maybe soon. But, you know, we can only wish.
Well, that's it for this episode of Nocturne News.
Remember to like and subscribe to Strange Waves Radio.
And we're going to leave you with some live footage from their show at Talia Hall in the Round. It's Drab Majesty. Stay tuned. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.